A's for Apricot, Chapter 27, Albert Hall. The rain had stopped the next day, and Apricot was ready for some peace and quiet now that Alfred marched off, hopefully forever. Mary was pleased to see him go. He had been giving her terrible headaches with all of the stress and noise. Mary turned on the radio and she began swaying to the lovely music. Classic FM, she said to Apricot. It's my favourite, she said with a smile, and she continued dancing in her tatty blue nightdress and big comfy slippers. Apricot had never seen her look so happy or so animated, and Apricot began to feel very happy himself, and he nodded along to the wonderful marching music. Apricot was very cultured, especially for a guinea pig. He loved the finer things in life. He was posh. I think this is a good day for a celebration, said Mary, barely audible above the soaring music. I'm going to show you the Albert Hall, said Mary, and she turned up the music even louder, and it made poor Apricot's ears ring. They were both giddy with excitement. Mary was humming all of the way in the taxi as they sped through the busy, dazzling London traffic. Apricot finally climbed out of the bag and he sat in her lap, and he peered out at the road. The drivers were all concentrating very hard, but as soon as they saw Apricot, their frowns turned to smiles. Apricot had never felt so happy. He'd had a hot bubble bath and he looked and smelled lovely. His coat had never looked so sleek and shiny, he thought proudly. Mary was wearing her favourite black dress and a string of pearls. She looked elegant and classy. It was just the look she wanted. Everyone was in beautiful clothes, and Apricot looked up at the pretty chandeliers and the plush ruby carpets and red wallpaper, and he thought that he had never been in a more beautiful place in his life. The musicians came onto the stage dressed immaculately in shiny black suits, and to the sound of thunderous applause. Mary was clapping just as hard as anyone else. Apricot had never seen her look so happy and excited, and he was pleased. The couple next to them didn't look as excited. They were very old, and they looked like they were going to fall asleep. 5 minutes later, they did. The old man's hat fell onto the floor, and he leaned against Apricot like a drunk leaning on a lamp-post. Apricot wasn't happy. Apricot was trying to enjoy the music, but all he could hear was snoring and shuffling about. Mary was so transfixed by the music that she couldn't hear the commotion, but Apricot was getting uncharacteristically annoyed. It was his first concert and he didn't want anyone to spoil it. People are so rude these days, thought Apricot sadly. All of the beautiful notes from the violins were being drowned out by the snoring, and Apricot couldn't stand it any longer. It was time for action, he thought decisively. He jumped out of the bag without Mary noticing, and he crouched down near the man's sweaty sock. Apricot had never bitten anyone before, but he had often thought about it. There was a triangle of lovely pink flesh in front of him, and he sunk his teeth into it. Yikes! Shouted the annoying old man as the musicians briefly gave him stern looks, and Mary tutted. Apricot scuttled back to his comfy seat as the man rubbed at his burning leg. There must be mice in here, the man said to his wife. Don't be silly, she said. It's too posh here for mice, she added with conviction. Be quiet, said a couple around them, and a chorus of shh and tutting went round the hall. Apricot was pleased with himself, and when the da-da-da-da of Beethoven sounded, it drowned out all of the complaints for good. When it was over, they drank tea. Mary's was out of a cup and Apricot's from a saucer. No one seemed to mind, and if they did, they were too polite to say so. Apricot slept so well that night, he had never felt so happy or content, but he knew that he had deserved it.